All right. There he is, locked and loaded. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing well, getting through another week, and especially now we're relieved of any hopium necessities. We just go on about our lives.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And the latest, people are putting out that video of Tua and telling about all the calls he's got to make and what a shell they're in and this and that and all. And as you just heard while you were waiting there, I think people are reaching for just too many things and not just football hasn't changed, dude. Nothing's changed in football. It's all the same. If you don't run the ball, you're never going to be the team you need to be. If you, Nobody wins with one guy in football. No, really, you don't win if you're not tough enough in football. And so Miami, because they don't have that running element, because they're not the team that every year constantly stops to run, that feature is gone, and that makes your passing game so much harder, dude. And it makes it so much more impossible for you to have success. And to me, that's where it is. It's really pretty simple, but I don't know why the Dolphins and many others don't figure it out. If you're not tough in those line of scrimmages and running game, doesn't matter who you are, bro. You're not going anywhere as a franchise.
Yeah. I love to hear what you're saying there. Sure, the game has gone more pass heavy, and sure, when you look up passing leaders, you're going to see, Marino's records were broken. And that's actually why Marino's records were so impressive from the era that they were made in. But it's a bunch of people who played after Marino, and even some quarterbacks who you don't even think of as that great. They end up retiring. You say they had how many passing yards? They threw for that many, and it's like it's way more than some of the Hall of Famers from past eras. It's gone more pass heavy, but exactly what you're saying is how much more difficult it makes the passing game when you don't have a running presence. So, Tua has come back, and before that Houston game, there were so many stats that you could point to that he hadn't thrown an interception and 204 passes, and his quarterback rating, and all these other efficiency metrics. But at the end of the day, at some point, it's going to catch up when you put so much on his shoulders. And
he's not Marino, bro.
Yeah,
he's not Marino.
Yeah.
He's not Marino, dude. He's not Brett Favre. He's not one of those like freak arms and all that kind of stuff. So understand, he's more like Drew Brees.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's more like Bob Greasy. So what you've got to do is build the team the right way. And by the way, with Marino, you didn't win jack shit. Nothing, dude. You put up a bunch of stats. You beat some sorry teams. But more often than not, by the way, Marino lost all the big games, by the way. Pretty much all the big games. Once in a while, you'd win some against some because Marino was freakish. But in the end, you didn't win anything significant with Marino, dude. Ever. And why? Was it Marino's fault? Do I ever blame Marino? Just like, do I blame Tua? No, dude. I blame what's around them. You continue to be incompetent. You want to take off that shell? Run the ball. Run the ball and watch how that shell gets crumbled. And then all of a sudden, the passing game opens up. But if you don't do that, then you're going to need, those passers. There's only a couple of those in the history of the game. Those guys that will give you a chance in a game. But in the end, none of them really have a title. Because if you didn't play with a real team, you're not going to really celebrate a championship.
Yeah, I mean, how many years did everyone go watching Peyton Manning and saying, well, he can't win the big one?
Nothing.
And even then, he had Edgerrin James back there, and he had Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne to throw to for
Tony Dungy.
Yeah.
Tony Dungy.
Right, got it done. Mm-hmm.
By the way, John Elway was a choker.
John Elway for the longest time, yeah.
A choker. A total choker.
But now he had the drive. He had the drive early in his career, though.
He was a choker. I lived it, bro. Trust me.
Yeah, no.
Trust me.
I'm just speaking to what I've heard historically. I always hear about the drive.
You can hear about any drive you want. He was a choker in his day. Everybody like, oh yeah, no, but he gets the big. No, dude, he has Sammy Winder. He has no defense. He has no running game. the fact that he got to the Super Bowl, yeah, he lost 55-10. Yeah, he got trucked by the Niners. Yeah, I get that, bro. But that's the other thing. When you were just joining us in the right at the beginning of the early 80s, like in the mid 80s, like 82, 83, it was NFC all the way to the middle of the 90s. They won all the Super Bowls pretty much. Pretty much every Super Bowl was won by an NFC team. In
Right.
fact, do me a favor, look from 82 when the Dolphins lost to Washington all the way up to, I believe, the Broncos is 95, 96 or 97, because right before that is the Cowboys.
Well, so you had the 83 Raiders, but then it was 49ers, it was 85 Bears,
Right.
The Giants.
Right. Oh, you're looking at it now.
Oh, no. Actually, I have Super Bowls memorized. So,
okay, right. That's what I'm saying.
Eventually, you get into like the Cowboys and
right. The NFC was inferior, dude. Inferior. Like when they would get to the Super Bowl, they weren't even a matchup for them. You know what I mean? And so that's what I'm saying is like, this is our history. It doesn't matter the quarterback. It happened with Marino and Shula all the way till now, dude. We've always watched this team fold in most of the big moments because they've been a finesse team for 40 years, dude. 40 years of finesse. That's been their problem, and they refuse to address being finesse.
Yeah. Outside of some pockets, like you mentioned, like the Wildcat year, they ran the ball. Lusaka Pallet on short yardage, but Ricky Williams a couple of years.
But that year, the Wildcat, what happened against Baltimore in the first round? 20-3 beat down. They punched you in the mouth because you won with a gimmick that year. You weren't really a tough team. You won with a gimmick. You couldn't really run the ball.
It was like gimmicky tough.
Right.
Because they had it was physical, but it was still gimmicky at the same time.
Look, dude, Jason Taylor and Zach Thomas and Tim Bowens are tough.
Yes.
Does it mean that their teams were tough? No, they weren't.
Yeah, they had those late 90s, early 2000s defenses, and it was Lamar Smith back there, let's say. But
they would fold every time they got in a big moment.
Yeah.
They would fold. It's just the way it is. It has not been since the 70s. That's when they could actually punch people in the mouth on offense and defense. It's interesting. It really is. And when you talk about those teams, offensively or defensively, there's a toughness that comes with the way you talk about them. You don't do that in any other era. You talk about the finesse of the 80s, the finesse now, but you don't really talk about, like in the 70s, you talk about true grit on both sides of the ball. Think about that. It's nutty. What do you got there, Sean?
Yes, sir.
What were you going to say?
84-96 were all NFC teams.
12.
Yeah, a lot of 49ers, the 85 Bears.
If you throw in 81-82, they were also NFC teams, but then the Raiders won 83.
Yeah, one freak win.
That was it. Other than that, there was never an AFC win.
Think about that. 14 out of 15 years, the NFC dominated.
Yeah, it was broken up by those back-to-back John Elway Broncos when he won at the end of his career, but he had a long history of, like you're saying, not coming through in the big game.
But when he got there, it's because they gave him what? A running game and a defense.
Yeah.
They gave him the toughness he never had. It was a finesse team, and so every time he would get handled, it wasn't John Elway's fault, dude. I don't blame John Elway. I blame the environment. I blame the Dolphins. I blame that they've continued to have a finesse environment. And this has been going on since Shula and Marino. And it's like we refuse to actually address reality, that's what they've been for many, many years. It's just been a finesse franchise, unfortunately. We've never really gotten back to the grit of the 70s on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. And some of it is the times, the era, but at the end of the day, it is football. You got to play between the lines and dominate the line of scrimmage. If you have the line of scrimmage dominated, then I don't care what you're doing on the outside. It eliminates the time that receivers have to get open, the timing that the quarterback wants to be on with the offense, which this offense is so predicated on timing. So if you're getting blown up at the line of scrimmage, then things like that happen.
All right. The other issue that we need to talk about is Tua Tagovailoa. Again, you didn't have an issue with it, okay? But I had an issue with it.
And then I asked him.
And you asked him, but you didn't have an issue with it. Do you still not have an issue with it now that he has a hip injury? Now that he continues to prove he is not durable, he does not have the body to put himself in those positions. And again, his dumbass came to the podium and addressed it and said he's got to do better with that. But talk is cheap, and he'll do the same stupid thing in the heat of the moment. What did he call it? Competitive greatness? Is that was his quote, right? To your question?
I believe that was in there, yeah.
Competitive greatness. I felt like punching the shit out of the screen. Okay.
The visual that I just got in my head, and yes, yeah, it was competitive greatness. I just looked back at the quote.
Yeah. I have a pretty good memory. I continually prove that here on this show. I mean, que clase come mierdería. I mean, really, seriously, bro. Can you stop being a moron? Come on, bro. I don't get it. I really don't get it. And by the way, if you're the front office, you better maybe Kirk Cousins is your backup quarterback next year, since they're going to get rid of him.
I've started thinking of things like that. Hey, you want the best backup quarterback, right? Regardless of now, he's got this big salary.
Oh, no, it's a Tannehill trade. No, it's a Tannehill trade. Remember, the Dolphins paid a certain portion of his salary to get
do that, right?
Pick. Remember, the Browns they paid a price so they could carry the salary. Well, this will be the reverse. You won't get a high pick, but you'll get kind of a mid-round pick, and they'll take up a lot of that salary, and then you can kind of, okay, well, we got to pay $12 million out of the 30. Okay, we'll do that. Whatever it is, I don't know. But if you're in the 10-12 range for a backup like that, then I guess you have to do it, right?
Yeah, and I know he's had his struggles this year, but yeah, I would absolutely love him as a backup. And then, if Tua has to miss another 4 games down the road, then you get you like that coming off the field after a game where he's a guy who could go light up a defense for 400 in today's game, especially if you give him the weapons that he would have here with the Dolphins. So. But yeah, on the topic of Tua protecting himself, yeah, Tua himself admitted that he shouldn't have gone for that first down and dive forward. Yeah, if that's what they came up with upon review, I thought at least in going for it that the way he dove, he was keeping his head safe. That's the main thing that I'm concerned with. But obviously, that's a big hit to the torso that he took, and then now he's got a hip injury on the injury report.
Some guy named Jesse Davis allowed him to break his ribs too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he busted and he fractured a finger. He's a tough guy. I know he's a tough guy. I know he's fearless. Okay. Anybody with a brain, I get it that there's some idiots over there that think he's not tough or something, which is stupid. He proves his toughness all the time. He proves he's more fearless than I will ever be, bro. Okay? Once you bust that hip, for you to come back 9 months later to get slammed by Michael Brockers, you have cojones that are really large, okay? Really, really large, okay? And so it's not a matter of proving that you're tough. It's a matter of proving that you're smart so you can stay healthy. That's what I don't understand the machismo bullshit, dude. That's the part I don't understand. It's like Marino never played like that, and he's in the same building. Like, he never chased anybody in interception. He never took on tacklers. That's not what he was going to do. I just don't understand it.
Yeah. And we got to talk to quarterbacks coach Darrell Bevel today, and that was something I asked him about, finding maybe the right balance. He said it's something they're still working with him on, of identifying when is the right moment to go for certain plays where you could put your body at some risk, and sort of maintaining that sliding scale of when it's appropriate to try to go make a play. In the pocket, of course, if you need the timing and you need to wait that extra second where you're going to get blasted to make the throw, then there's nothing you can do about that. But when you're outside the pocket, that's where he's got to identify. And Darryl Bevell talked about Russell Wilson and how when he had him in Seattle, he was very good at that aspect of it. When he got outside, just identifying when should he just dump it off, when should he run but slide, when should he throw it away.
You don't get clean shots on Russell. You don't get clean shots on Russell. That's a great example, dude. By the way, Russell has done a marvelous job of not taking hits, and he has mobility. Now, he's never used his mobility. I mean, not never. It's not something that he uses to go gain yards. He uses it to buy time to make a pass because he's a passer first. But that's a great example. Russell has done a marvelous job of staying away from taking stupid hits. He doesn't have to take.
Yeah. So hopefully, Bubbles using that film that he's got from coaching Russ up in Seattle to go and implement that. I mean, I think he is if he brought that up on his own.
That's good. That's good shit. I like that. I don't know if Tua will learn because, again, I don't know, bro. It's some Tongan warrior bullshit that's in him. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know. He probably goes in the off season and walks on hot coal and shit, and we don't know about it. You know what I'm saying? He's probably catching spears that are lit on fire in Hawaii or something in the off season. We don't know about it. So it's like to him, this is nothing. And it's like, yo, bro, you got to stop. It's just a weird thing, dude. It's just a weird thing. By the way, what's more volatile, the Dolphins or Bitcoin?
Yeah, right. Good point.
Dolphins opened up at 2.5, then it went down to 1.5, then it went down to 1, and now the Niners are favored by 1.
Oh, is it? Okay. I haven't seen all the line movement on
You know that? Monday it was Dolphins 2.5. Mm-hmm. Tuesday it was Dolphins 1.5. Wednesday it was Dolphins 1. Today it's Niners -1. It has swung 3.5 points.
Jeez, I'm trying to figure out what.
Tua.
So hip. Yeah, because Tua's hip. But yeah, even today, we heard it's
did
not.
You watched Life Without Tua. Yeah, you did. I'm sorry, you covered it. Yes, Life Without Tua.
But he's
Vegas
playing.
Goes, oh shit, Life Without San Fran.
But he's playing. Yeah, I mean. We asked Frank Smith about it today. He said it's not something they're concerned about. He still went through he was limited on the injury report Wednesday, but everything kind of looked normal up until that injury report came out as far as seeing him out there and then him talking to us and being in the locker room after. So, he still made it through that game, but all expectations are he's playing. It's not like it's life without Tua.
No. I know that. I know. I know. It's just I wish he wouldn't have dove so he doesn't take those stupid hits. Yeah. Jamie, by the way, is having fun with you here. Bazdaric. Jamie Bazdaric. I'm calling it now. Chargers lose and Dolphins beat Niners. Furones gets a bag of hopium for the week. Then the Dolphins drop in on our heads again.
Yeah, well, if that happens, then all they would need. I did run through scenarios because I have to, as rare as they would be. But yeah, then you just need one more Chargers loss and the Colts to lose one of their games. Now the Chargers, they have the Raiders and the Patriots. So you would need two tanking teams to find their way. Maybe the Patriot way could get one for the Dolphins in taking the Chargers out.
All right. So we talked about, you agree, they if these guys are coming back, right, there's a couple things. One, we talked about you got to go get the best backup quarterback that exists, and maybe the situation might be uncomfortable for Kirk Cousins in Atlanta now that he's probably going to lose his job and they're going to move on to Penix. Maybe they want to move on from Kirk Cousins so he's not uncomfortable, and maybe they can make a move there. That's one. Two, this draft is set up for fat guys. Why? Well, you've got Patrick Paul and Austin Jackson. You've got your starters. Kendall Lamb said he's thinking of coming back. And you've got Keon. So all of a sudden, you've got your swing backup tackles. If Lamb comes back and Keon is back from the injury, then now you've got potential to have your swing tackles, your edge rushers. You've got Chop. You'll get Phillips back. You'll get Chubb. And whatever you get from Kamara now becomes a bonus. So in the draft, it's about the fat guys on offense and on defense. Get yourself a guard. Get yourself a tackle. Help yourself in those areas. Get the best backup QB you can possibly get in the NFL, and get some fat guys in the draft right now, because the edge guys, you're going to be all right.
Yeah, that's right. Now, I mean, hopefully from your words to Chris Greer's ears, because we
Greer's ears.
Yes, to
nice
Greer's
job
ears.
by you.
Yeah, I wasn't even going for it when I started it, and then I realized
you can get a muscle-bound man and put his face in the sand. Nice job by you.
Ooh, yeah, yeah. It wasn't even intentional as I started saying it, but then I realized, oh, this is about to rhyme, because it would signify a philosophical change that yes, the Dolphins are finally putting an emphasis on the trenches and the offensive line after laughing at fans who were so concerned about it and then saying, no, we're not as concerned about it over here. And I know it's a staple of Mike McDaniel being in the Shanahan system, and how, you don't have to worry so much about the offensive guards and that it'll take care of itself. But we've seen this season how much it could help this offense if you were strong in the interior of the offensive line. Center Aaron Brewer has played just fine there. He's been bulldozing as a blocker, great in the outside zone scheme. I love his athleticism there. But if you were better at the guards, which, by the way, Liam Eichenberg's job may be up for grabs this week with Isaiah Wynn progressing further. So there is that. But if it opens the eyes to Mike McDaniel or Chris Greer that they really do need to emphasize those positions, that would be great. So, yeah, from your mouth to Chris Greer's ears, hopefully that philosophical change does occur this offseason, and they finally see that shortcoming that this is what's missing for this roster.
I think also there needs to be another tweak, and here's my suggestion. I think Mike McDaniel finally needs to give up the play calling duties. I don't think he can be a head coach and an offensive coordinator. Plus, I don't think he's a very good offensive coordinator. I have no idea if Frank Smith can do the job or not, but I think Frank Smith should be the offensive coordinator next year. I think Mike McDaniel and Frank Smith should be the play designers throughout the week and set up the whole game plan. But Frank Smith should be the guy calling the plays. I think Mike McDaniel is a better people person. So work the relationships that are going on in the game, on offense, on defense, somebody struggling, somebody having a great moment, figuring things out, whatever. I think he's better off that way than his mind getting cluttered, worried about head coaching and offensive coordinator and thinking about what they're doing and how in a counter and all that. He doesn't do a good job of balancing it. In fact, he can't do the job of balancing everything. Let me phrase it the right way. Since he is incapable of handling the job like an Andy Reid, then he should not take on that responsibility, and at least give your players a chance to have more success by, delegating that responsibility to Frank Smith as your offensive coordinator, play caller. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's an idea, and along with that is just streamlining better the process of the communication of the calls, so it's not so complex. And because you go up there, they're so motion heavy. You go up there, if there's any fault in communication from early in the play clock, if there's any decision making that goes on the front end of those 40 seconds, now all of a sudden, all right, it's let's say 4th and 2, and you're deciding whether to go for it or not. You take a couple seconds to decide that. Once you finally say, yeah, we are going for it, then it's what play call you're going to use in that scenario. And then it's all this jive and all this lingo to communicate. Get that to the quarterback. The quarterback gets it to everyone. They come out, and then you're down in single-digit seconds when you still got a one motion and a second motion to run out there before you snap the ball. Then that's when you're up against it as an offense. So, and I know it's a staple to what McDaniel wants to do, to get defenses off balance and figure out what they're doing before the snap occurs. But if you can just streamline some of that stuff better, I know it's part of the identity and they want to keep it, but if you're able to just make it simpler, so that maybe sometimes it's not in there as much. When it is that you can easily communicate it and make sure everyone understands it, then that would be huge for this offense. So you don't have so many of those communicative issues.
Well, all right. Let me explain something to you. What's going on there, and I'm going to come from the old man's perspective on this one. Okay, motion is nothing new. Sid Gilman was teaching it with the San Diego Chargers in the '60s. Hank Stram was teaching it in the '60s. Tom Landry was teaching it in the '60s, '70s, and '80s. Not only was there motion with Landry and with Stram, the offensive linemen would stand up and come down. Okay. So not only were there people moving, there were people standing up and sitting, which I don't know if Mike McDaniel could handle his offensive linemen.
They cracked down on that at some point, all right? Because I think that would be a false start these days.
I don't know. Would that be a false start? Why would that be a false start? If they don't set right, because I think I've seen centers stand up and check and turn around and come back to snap. I've seen that. So if they can do that, I still think you can do the Dallas Cowboy thing, dude, and the Hank Stram thing.
They never put their hand on the ground. It was like on their knees, and then they'd rise up. Then they'd go to the ground.
That's okay. Maybe
Exactly. They come in and then boom, and then they land, and then they come in and then come at your ass. Now, what did Kansas City do? What did San Diego do? What did the Dallas Cowboys do? What did the St. Louis Rams do? They had some guy named Marshall Faulk, right? I'm not going to go back to the Kansas City because I don't want to bore you. But in every era, they could run the ball. So you want to make it simple, my brother? Well, brother, just running plays. So if you have a 12-play drive and 8 of them are running plays, it doesn't really take a lot of setting up. You don't have to worry so much. Here, we're running the ball and we're pushing it right down your goddamn throat, whether you like it or not. It's coming at you. We're the Baltimore Ravens. It's coming at you with Pacheco. When they have it, they use it. Miami never has it. So if you're always going to be behind the 8 ball, then Marino's going to come to the line. And Tua's going to come to the line every time, and you're behind the 8 ball. You're on a 2nd and 9. You're on a 3rd and 10. You're making stupid mistakes. You're on a 3rd and 12, a 3rd and 15, a 3rd and 17. Why? You can't run the ball. So, again, this goes back to my diatribe before you came on. Do you want to simplify things? Well, dude, the simplest part you don't do. Run. Run the damn ball. Man, Marino, if he just had a Barry Sanders or a Thurman Thomas. Man, if Tua just had an Isaiah Pacheco. If you have a Derrick Henry, if you have somebody you can just – in Alabama, he had the line, he had the running game, he had the tight end, and then, he's got all the receivers. They're all first rounders. Bro, it's not the first rounders. It's the hogs in the middle that are making his life easy. It's not the receiver. That's the easy part for Tua, throwing to receivers. The hard part for Tua is that it's like any quarterback. You're putting them behind the 8 ball every time because they have no running game to make your life easy.
Yeah. And you said one name there, Derrick Henry, that I know just would have really brought. We talked about it a bunch. Yeah. I know you would have liked it. I know my colleague.
I wanted him. I wanted Derrick Henry. I said, that's what you need on this team. You got to have an attitude about running the goddamn football, bro. And it's just frustrating. That
would have been the easiest path to exactly that. And then you make Devon Anan. How much more effective would Anan be if instead of this season he's got 165 carries and 70 receptions. So his body taking on that's 235 touches through 14 games. That's a lot on his a smaller stature in the NFL, and he's taking some big hits sometimes. So I mean, he had one concussion already. He had his body twisted in another game, and a lot of big hits. God bless him for
by the way, I already talked about it this week. You need to dial it back and use a lot of Jalen. I would use a little Mostert, since I don't need him anymore next year, and you're going to move on from him. But I'd use a lot of Jalen Wright for the next couple of weeks because it'll be the Jalen Wright. It'll be the H.N. Wright show next year. And like I told you a week and a half ago, it's the Patrick Paul show, bro. Let's go. Let's go. Start to turn the page. You need to start to turn the page and get playing time for these youngins. I'd like to see a lot more Jalen Wright. I don't think it's smart to overuse H.N. for the rest of the way. I think you've already used him enough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Already used them plenty. And I think maybe that is what's bogging him down a little bit is this workload catching up to him because up until while the Dolphins were still running the ball and you hit that midway point, it kind of does align with when he sort of surpassed last year's touches totals and he ended up taking on just a more extensive workload going beyond how much he had to deal with last year. So, if you had a Derrick Henry in this offense and you had that physical presence, that would have made H.N. so much more effective and valuable in bringing that lightning and thunder combination to this offense. So something like that. But I mean, you have it somewhat in Jalen Wright. He's got the physicality. Obviously no one compares to a Derrick Henry, but if they could have just found ways to keep him more consistent, because then once they try to go back to him a little bit, then you didn't see the same effectiveness. And I think there could have been a rhythm that they could have found if when he was going, they kept it going and were feeding him and found more balance in the backfield workload.
Yeah, it's an attitude, bro. It's an attitude that you got to have. It's when the kid for San Francisco went down and God, McCaffrey, and then the Morgan kid comes in.
Jordan Mason.
Mason, I'm sorry, comes in and he starts kicking ass. And it's like, okay, but this is part of the attitude of the team already as it is. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that Miami has just not developed for 40 years, bro. For 40 years. And I think, young and old Dolphins need to kind of be reminded that these problems have existed forever. And it's just like culturally, I don't know why they can't fix it because no era fixes it. From the Shula era till now, none of the eras can fix it. Think about it. It just never happens. It's never been an attitude and success of running the ball year in and year out. Nobody's done it. It's been a flash here and there that you get a back and he had a hot year or 2 hot years with Ricky, and then that's it. It's gone. It's history. It wasn't really who you are. It was just an aberration.
Yeah, I guess that's how you would categorize last year for this run game.
Right. Yeah. Aberration. Right. It's not real. It's not really. And in the end, it was still kind of more of a flashy run game. When you needed tough yards, you really weren't able to get that either. You know what I'm saying? So, because the tough yards come in January and in February. And, that's not who they've ever been because now you get into the weather and all that. And guess what? Now you can't pass. And now you need to run more because the conditions don't help. But if you didn't have that attitude of running from all the way from July till then, you're not all of a sudden going to, all right, we're going to turn it on now. Now we're going to become a tough running team. That doesn't happen. It sucks. All right, what do you got going on the Sentinel?
Yeah, I was just writing about how, offensive line updates. So Kendall Lamb coming back to practice today. So good news if they're able to get him at right tackle. Also possible shuffling on the offensive line. After Liam Meichenberg had a rough outing in Houston. So maybe Isaiah Wynn starts to come up, or Robert Jones, but a lot of things in the works possibly on the offensive line for the final 3 games. And also writing about Anthony Weaver and his prospects as a head coach now as you kind of went in with the expectation that it could be a 1-year rental because he's just too good of a coach, commands a room so well. We've seen what he's done with this defense. So he's a name that's going to be hot in the head coaching hiring cycle coming up in a few weeks.
So David Furones is writing, fire McDaniel, hire Weaver.
Oh, don't put words in my mouth. So Weaver's going to be a hot name for
wait a minute. Hold on a second. Everybody on the chat board, did you guys not hear that from Furones right now? Come on, admit it on the chat board there. I mean, you all heard Furones just say, fire McDaniel, hire Weaver. Did you hear that?
That sounds like the headline.
It sounded like a headline. Like, I'm working on that. I don't know. Yeah. Telling you. That's gutsy on your part there, buddy.
You said it.
No, I said it a while back.
Oh, yeah, you have been, yeah.
Yes, I've had Mike Daniel fired already a while back, dude. Okay, but it's nice to see that you're on board with the firing of Mike McDaniel. See, there it is. Ray Grullon says, "Oh yes." Josh says, "Yes, I did." Jimbo says, "Furones did say that." I mean, I don't know. Headlines. Those are headlines in the Sun Sentinel. I can't wait to see that. Is it 2-inch print? Furones says, "Fire McDaniel, hire Weaver." All right, follow him on Twitter at @DavidFurones_ and subscribe so you can get the story when he writes.
Yeah, exactly.
When he wants to, fire McDaniel and hire Weaver. All right, my brother, have a great weekend. We will talk on Sunday night, hopefully after a decent outing. It would be nice.
Sounds good, my friend.
All right, my man. There you go. Welt Rheaume, Jeff Welt, Daniel Rheaume. We love them. 954-966-4646. They will fight. They will fight. They will fight for you, and they will win. Unlike the Dolphins, they win. They won for us against Progressive. They have won for so many of our listeners, dude. We're like over 20 of our listeners already have called and have benefited from Welt and Rheaume, and a few more are now. We've got some listeners on the West Coast, by the way, that unfortunately went through all these damn storms. They called Jeff Welt and Daniel Rheaume, 954-966-4646. If you're dealing with bankruptcy issues, homeowner property damage, condo damage, criminal defense, business owner claims, commercial litigation, personal injury, check out the website, WRFLAlaw.com, and call them. The consultation's free, 954-966-4646.